And so now, in this particular season of lights, a time when cultures and faiths worldwide pause to honor the brilliance of fire, of light that sustains us. Holidays like Diwali, Hanukkah, St. Lucia's Day, winter solstice, Kwanzaa, Yule, Christmas, and perhaps this year, UUCT's own Chalice celebration. All of these holidays remind us of the light's power to transform, heal, and guide. Last year, in a service titled The Holidays We Keep, we explored sacred days that hold meaning in our community. Among the comments, many expressed enthusiasm for celebrating something uniquely Unitarian Universalist, a holiday that reflects our principles with the same joy and reverence as other winter traditions. This idea isn't new. Also last year, I shared that in 1994, members of the UU Church of Little Rock created a holiday illumination, blending feasts, songs, and reflection. And a few years later, in 2005, college students were the ones who introduced the holiday that was mentioned earlier, Chalika, a celebration spanning then 7 days of lighting candles, reflecting on principles and inspired action. The name Chalika didn't catch on. It was a name that felt like it was too close to Kwanzaa and Hanukkah and felt misappropriative and just inappropriate. And so many instead opted to keep the practice of reflecting on our principles and inspiring action, even though the name did not resonate, knowing that its spirit, centering love, learning, and service, does continue to inspire. So as we imagine a practice of a chalice celebration, let us reflect on the flaming chalice itself, what it symbolizes and how it connects us to shared values, and how it calls us to illuminate the world with justice, courage, and love. At its most basic, the flaming chalice is an emblem of Unitarian Universalism, but it's so much more than a logo. When we light the chalice, we honor the transformation that happens in spiritual community, a transformation that calls us to embody our values in the world. The chalice as a symbol has ancient roots. Across cultures, chalices have represented, goodness, Jesus. I'm so sorry, it just moved. Across cultures, chalices have represented life, community, and the sacred. For neo-pagans, the chalice has signified water and fertility. In Christianity, the chalice of the Last Supper became the Holy Grail, symbolizing ultimate grace and unity. For the Czech reformer Jan Hus, it represented equality, a principle for which he became a martyr. In this way, fire too has captured spiritual imagination. From stories like Prometheus stealing fire to Moses encountering Yahweh in a burning bush, flames signify divine power, witness, and renewal. In the Hindu Vedas, in Hanukkah lights, in pagan Yuletime logs, and in the Pentecostal tongues of fire, flames have marked moments of transformation. In Unitarian Universalism, these two symbols combine the flaming chalice, life and community meet illumination and transformation. Together, they represent our commitment to justice, equity, and compassion. But what does this mean for us today? How do we live into the chalice's legacy? I invite us to consider a story of an elderly Czech woman during the Nazi occupation. She was imprisoned in a concentration camp, and there she traced the shape of a chalice in the dirt each morning, writing the words, Pravda vitezi, which means in English, the truth prevails. That simple act connected her to a symbol of hope, resilience, and human dignity. In a place of despair, it affirmed her belief that every person deserves freedom and worth. Her story reminds us that the flaming chalice is more than a symbol. It can be a call to action, an invitation to courage, resilience, and justice, even in the darkest of times. But for its light to shine, we must embody its meaning in our lives. In striving to live the chalice, the flaming chalice challenges us to reflect on our values and act on them. How do we honor the inherent worth and dignity of every person? How do we live in harmony with the interdependent web of existence? How do we work for justice and compassion? A chalice celebration offers a way to explore these questions personally in your home. Through 8 days of intentional reflection and action, you can deepen a connection to the 8 principles of Unitarian Universalism. Each principle can be a guide, transforming the celebration into a practice of mindfulness and commitment. I offer a few examples of how you might do this, going through each of the principles. I wish that I had the image that Alessandra created. I wonder if folks might be interested in having those pages passed out so that you can look at them while I say the words. Thank you. Some greeters are going to pass out some of those so that you can be invited. And you might need to share, because I'm not sure how many Alessandra printed out. Thank you. And you can keep that slide with all of those visual chalices up there. And so while some people are getting the very, very few copies, I think that, yes.
Raise your hand if you don't have one.
And the folks up front might need to share, just as a visual guide for the principles. And so the page that's coming around doesn't have what I'm reading. It just has, as Alessandra shared, the values written in child-friendly language. And so I begin with an invitation to affirm the value of every life, including your own. This might be a practice offering forgiveness, extending grace, or listening deeply. Something, again, these things aren't written on there, but it's just for you to have something concrete to look at when talking about the principle of inherent worth and dignity of every person. Another concrete thing that you could consider for yourself is joining one of the congregants, Leanne Rhodes, and others in creating a more active caring circle, a way to support one another beyond joys and concerns, embodying the sacredness of connection. The second principle, justice, equity, and compassion, I say in all relations and human relations. You can consider acts of kindness, whether it's things like serving food at Grace Mission here in Tallahassee, or advocating for fair policies, or joining the Capital Area Justice Ministry. If someone is interested in that, hearing that Carolyn is not well, she's not one who you can reach out, but if you're interested in knowing more about the Capital Area's Justice Ministry, you can connect with me and I can put you in touch with someone. This is just one way that you might express your commitment to a compassionate society. You might also partner with another community member. Natalie Binder or Rosa Morgan recently came together to talk about forming a kind of justice response group to offer mutual support during challenging times, like when responding after the election to challenging emotions. The third principle of acceptance and spiritual growth, you might consider creating space for growth involving supporting others' spiritual journey or embracing a quiet moment of introspection. Some new congregants are exploring their spiritual identities and plan to help lead and participate in the Building Your Own Theology class. I'm not going to say your name, but I'm so glad to see some of the new people still showing up who've expressed interest in doing that. That is an example of a way of putting your principle in practice. The fourth, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. This principle calls us to approach life with curiosity, exploring ideas that challenge and expand our understanding. By doing so, we can grow in empathy and deepen our capacity to hold diverse truths. A way that you can put this principle in action is by volunteering to possibly be a worship associate like George did today, having the opportunity to speak to the diverse truths in front of a collective community with different experiences of the divine really helps one lean into that principle. The last example that I'll share is one that I was invited to this morning for the fifth principle, the right of conscience and the democratic process. Many of us who recently voted and participated in the election process, regardless of how we might feel about the results, know that engaging in civic life, whether by writing to legislators, following up on election promises, or participating in congregational decision-making, ensures that our value shapes the systems around us. Some may know that soon we will have the opportunity to participate in this congregation's decision-making process, with the congregational vote taking place next Sunday, I believe. Yes. And something else that I wanted to mention around the democratic process, George just let me know that what was the name of this group? The Democratic Club of North Florida is meeting on December 8th for folks who might be interested in participating. If you have questions about that, you can connect with George. So in the interest of time, I won't continue down with the other principles. However, I do really want to invite you to consider deepening your connection to the principles by celebrating the chalice and considering using the handout that Alessandra provided. By reflecting on the principles and acting on them, the chalice celebration can become more than a ritual. It can become a way of life. It can remind you that our principles and values are not static beliefs, but dynamic commitments to love, justice, and hope. As we reflect on the meaning of the flaming chalice, we are also called to consider how we might make this light visible in our community and beyond. Soon, as I said, our congregation will also be voting on the budget and envisioning UUCT's future. These discussions offer opportunities to live our principles boldly and communicate our shared values. For instance, some of you may recall that our street banner suddenly disappeared a little bit before the election. And while replacing it with the same design is an option because that banner was lovely, this moment invites us also to reimagine how we might want to present our identity and our mission. What story do we want to tell? How do we want to proclaim who we are and who we are striving to become? A new banner can be more than a marker. It can be an invitation. It says, "We are here and you are welcome." It calls us to live our principles and reflect them boldly, to act for justice and to hold our flame high. Let us embrace the chalice celebration as a ritual and possibly a way to ground you in a way of life. Let us reflect on our principles and act on them, letting the flaming chalice shine as a symbol of hope and courage. And let us raise a new banner that proclaims our commitment to justice and invites others to join. In this season of lights, may we carry the fire of commitment forward, and may we lead with love together. Amen.